Welcome back to Online Darts, everyone. We're here at the Morningside Arena for the World Grand Prix. Matt, we finally get to catch up. I think you've been ignoring my calls and whatnot. It's been a while now. I know you've been...
can't face your questions, Phil. They're too hard. It's too hard.
No, look, it's been a manic time. I bet for you it's nice to be home for a while, isn't it? In the way the World Series was.
Do you know what? It's funny. Obviously, a couple of years without any travel, and you miss it, and then when you're back on the road and back on aeroplanes, back in hotels, you don't stop. Listen, we're very privileged to do what we do. Nobody complains, but it can be quite tiring, can be quite draining, and also you need some time in the office day to day just to plan, just to take stock, just to strategise and stuff like that. So yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of time back on home shores.
Going to rewind because we haven't caught up. First of all, the splash in America. Have you had time to have a look at the analytics, all the numbers? Because being there, it seemed to be a huge success.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, look, it was a real not risk. That's probably too heavy a word, but it was a real statement for us to go to somewhere like Madison Square Garden and stage an event in New York. It's an iconic venue, global city, a new market for us, and a different audience as well. First time we've ever done anything for the American market, really, rather than just for tourists and holidaymakers. So it was a really, really well received event. I thought the atmosphere was fantastic inside the Hulu Theatre, and it was really, really well received. So we're obviously going back next year. We've already announced that. We've made no secret of that. We'll be on sale before Christmas, and I think we'll only do more and more numbers out there because the demand is there. And I think you will see Brits going over now, but they'll be outnumbered for the first time because there'll be Americans.
Is that important to make that splash in America? Because it's probably soft tip over there, but to get your foot in must please you because it's a huge market if you can get part of it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of steel tip darts in America, but it's obviously mostly amateur. The CDC are doing great work to try and develop a professional tour across North America, and they've restarted really well after COVID. And you've seen it with the number of players now that are representing America and Canada on the global scene, that there are wheels starting to turn over there. They're expecting, I think, 8 to 10 at Q School. I saw your interview with Pete Satira. That's what he said. He said the same to me. Leonard Gates has shown what he can do. Danny Baggish has shown what he can do. Jules Van Dongen's got a tour card. So Jeff Smith, obviously we know from Canada. Matt Campbell. And fair play to Matt. Because he took that route of going in through the European Challenge Tour. It's a good bit of strategizing. I like to see people thinking about things and then they pay off. And these guys deserve their plaudits because it's a big commitment. They have to fly across the Atlantic or relocate. And it's tough that. So fair play to them, and it's interesting to see who's going to follow in their footsteps.
Yeah, from there we went to the match play. Obviously back at the Winter Gardens under normal circumstances for the complete tournament. It's the fans' favourite. We all know that. Yeah. But this year the standalone women's world match play. Again, being there, it seemed a success. There was a good number. Yes, it wasn't sold out, but there was a good number of tickets sold.
Yeah.
And again, if you had time to look at all the data from that,
there was enough people in the arena to show that there was a demand for it. And it'll take time. I'm not worried about things being like huge in year one because everything has to be built over time. We've seen that with the development tour. We've seen that with the World Series, the European tour. You can't expect something in year one to be on the level that you want it to be by, say, year 5, year 10, whatever. So the important thing is to show that there's enough in year 1 to justify year 2, 3, 4. And the Women's World Match Play did that. I think if you ask the players, largely, they may be a little bit disappointed with what they produced on stage. I know a lot of them were very, very nervous. They felt that a weight of expectation on their shoulders. They were trailblazers. They were the first players to play in the event. They all wanted to be the first winner. And I know that some of them, maybe not all of them, but some of them felt they could have perhaps done a little bit better. But that's good, because that means they'll try it again and they'll come back and they'll deliver better. And I've got no doubt whatsoever that the standard will improve.
It was also good as well that Chloe O'Brien and Katie Sheldon got there as well, to that younger generation where they got in at the last minute on the order of merit. And just
that is good. Them. That is good. I mean, it's interesting. I was having a chat with Dieter Hedman yesterday for a piece that Sky are doing, and the comment I made to Dieter was that the female players of this generation are perhaps slightly unlucky in that they won't be the ones who reap all the rewards from the developments in women's darts. Because things take 5 years, 10 years or whatever, if you're playing now and you're a little bit later in your career, it's going to be tricky for you to maybe sustain that level while the young players are coming up, because we've seen what's happened with the development tour and the standard that the men are delivering there. So I think it's really good that the well-established women players are getting a shot at it now, and I hope that they can carry on performing at the top level of the women's game and integrating into the overall game for many years to come, but it's going to be the younger players who are the ones who are going to see the real benefits of it in years ahead. So, yeah, it was great to have the younger girls in there, but also I was pleased that some of the older players were rewarded for their commitment to women's darts and darts in general with a spot themselves.
On the women's, it keeps coming up, and we spoke to Eddie recently, and he said he'd like to see a women's world championship. Is that still not anywhere close?
Yeah, I mean, no, it isn't something that's close. You know, I think the beauty of darts, it's along with horse racing and snooker, I think probably one of only 3 sports, you may be able to name another one, where women can compete against men, and that is a real selling point. You know, that's what makes the headlines. Fallon Sherrock winning a match at Alexandra Palace against another woman isn't 1/10 of the headline of her beating a man, because that's the nature of sport and the media. Yeah. You know, now the aim is to get to a point where that isn't a headline, because it's happening regularly. It's the norm. You just want someone to say, oh, it's a woman beat a man, no problem, that happens in darts quite a lot. We can get there. It'll take time, but we can get there. That's the selling point. So the key is to work out how to get women to the standard, and enough women to the standard where that can happen. So it's opportunities, and it's an environment in which they can play and progress. You know, so the women's series, which will expand, will do that. There'll be more women's series events. The women's world match play will return. Qualifying spots for the Grand Slam, qualifying spots for the World Championship. We'll look to increase those in the years ahead. So if we produce more opportunities for players, then they will develop in standard. But I think a standalone women's world championship isn't something that you will see from our side, for the foreseeable future.
No, of course. On the World Championships, you obviously released the full criteria of international qualifiers, and there were a couple of points off of that people brought up. One was obviously the Ukrainian qualifier, and people calling it a publicity stunt.
Look, the EADC, which has provided a World Championship spot for many years for us, consists 95% of Russian players, 3% of Belarusian players, and 2% of Ukrainian players. Well, 98% of those players aren't welcome at the moment. So the other 2%, good luck to them. Also,
there's still one spot floating around. Have you decided where that's going to go yet? You going to let us know or not?
Nope. No, look, we've got a couple of irons in the fire still. There is still some difficulties in Asia with COVID, with players travelling. I mean, already today we've found out two Asian players who are going to come over for the development tour and the World Youth Championship haven't got their visas in time. There are some challenges in that part of the world, so we're keeping our options open but narrowed, you know. And it'll be no. The people who are in the running know that they're in the running. They know what needs to happen. They know. So it's all being planned. But I don't want to say something, because if somebody's then doesn't materialise, they'll feel let down.
Yeah,
you know,
of course, I understand that.
It's still complicated, and that is really the only part of the world where there's still any sort of COVID issues, and unfortunately they've lasted a little bit longer than probably anybody would have wanted. So it'll be a couple of weeks, and then it'll all become clear.
You know what it's like, people don't miss a lot, do they? And they're like, oh, there's still one
quite right too. It shows they're interested. You know?
Definitely. On the World Championships, tickets, again, selling out in record time, which you must be so proud of, because last year it was a predominantly English crowd and maybe didn't get the best reputation. But this year, open again.
Absolutely,
and have you seen that in the numbers where the tickets have been sold?
We have, I mean, we're getting back to the pre-COVID levels for international travellers to the event. You know, we had, I think in 2019, we sold tickets to 59 countries. Yeah. So, you know, we're going to be back at that level. We've got the travel partners who are selling packages across Germany, across the Netherlands, Belgium, Austria, etc. So, I think you'll see that international flavour, and that really contributes to the atmosphere of the event. So last year's dynamic was a little bit different. Sometimes it wasn't what we'd have wanted to have created, but you know, ultimately it was the nature of the beast. So let's see. I think this year will be a lot more back to normal.
2023 calendar is out, and there's plenty of questions on that, which is
part of the reason why it's almost the same as this year's.
But you know, it's like, first of all, we'll talk about the Grand Prix, because obviously we're here in Leicester. Announced that it will be back here in Leicester for next year as well. 4 years away from Dublin. Does it make it harder to go back the longer it's away?
It does, yeah, but it doesn't mean we don't want to go back. We do want to go back to Ireland. We do want to have one of our bigger events in Ireland, away from just the one night, i.e. the Premier League. There aren't many venues, you know. I mean, we've been looking. If anybody knows of a really good 4,000 to 5,000 seat arena in Ireland, please send me the details, because we can't find it. But there are a couple of options. It's difficult, and because there are so few venues, they get booked up so early. We need a 10-day tenancy, which isn't easy. We need it in a certain week of the year, which isn't easy. But we are keen to do something in Ireland. City West was a great venue for us. It's had 2 years as a COVID centre. It's going to have 2 years as a Ukrainian housing centre. So it's just the way things are.
Yeah, look, it's just the way it is. But
Just
like with
is,
anything in life, the longer you leave stuff
Absolutely, no, you're
the
right.
harder it is to revert back to stuff.
Yeah.
The Premier League, the dates are out.
Yeah.
Finals back at the O2.
Yeah.
Was that always going to happen, or
pretty much. Yeah, I mean, look, the O2 is an iconic global venue. You know, not quite perhaps at the Madison Square Garden level, but not far off. You know, and it's an appropriate place for the Premier League final to be staged. People say the atmosphere is not the best. Maybe it isn't, but ultimately the people are saying that might be part of the crowd. So improve the atmosphere. You know, it's a great venue to go to, and also with it being in London, we don't want to do it too early in the run because we're coming off the back of being at Alexandra Palace. You don't want to do London in December, London in February. You know, it doesn't really make sense. That we do try to spread things out as best we can. So yeah, the finals are back at the O2 this year.
Format, you've already said it, so it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
What did you learn from obviously this year's going into next year's that maybe need tweaking?
Well, there's going to be one tweak, which is going to be a balancing out of the fixtures to make sure that players are in opposite halves more regularly. Yep. There was a few occasions this year, a few too many occasions where players were in the same half as each other and then not in the same half as a certain other player for a long time. So we've learned from that, and you know, we'll make those tweaks for next year. That's not a problem. But what we did learn from the feedback we got from the post-event surveys we sent out to ticket holders, the post-event surveys we sent out online, was that people like the new format. The people who go to it's very difficult. If you're watching the event on TV every week, you're experiencing it in a very different way to someone who's just going along to the arena. Yeah. You know, if you think about it from the eyes of someone who's going along to the arena, they're going to see 8 players. Why wouldn't they want to see a winner on the night? You know, that's the nature of sport. Yeah. Just seeing a load of group games, it's difficult to put that in a context unless you're getting towards the point of previously elimination or playoff qualification. You know, if it's just week 11, then it's just week 11. Yeah. You know, whereas if it's, well, this guy's winning, he's won 10 grand, then there's and also you noticed, and you would have seen this as well being at most of them, that the crowd was staying until the end. Yeah, no, you know, previously it got to 10 p.m. and people would be drifting off, let's go and have a drink in town, let's get the train home, whatever. Whereas now people are staying until the end because it's important to them to see who wins. And I think it meant more to the players as well. You saw Michael Smith winning in Newcastle. Gary Anderson was struggling, but still had incentive to turn up and deliver his best every week. You know, so I was pleased with the format. And as I've said on number of occasions, the format of the Premier League's evolved over the 17 years or whatever of its lifespan, and it will evolve again. It won't be this format forever. It'll be something else. But for the moment, this is the right format for us.
Is anything going to be done to combat non-games, where if a player's ill or can't play for whatever reason, or is it still going to stay?
It's very difficult
as a bye.
It's difficult that. I mean, we were unfortunate. I think we had 3 buys, did we? Yeah. Well, obviously we don't want buys in anything, but we're not going to have kind of reserve players because that again it affects the integrity in terms of somebody could play somebody who's banging form as their reserve player, somebody else could play somebody who's out of form but happens to live around the corner, so they've been brought in last minute. You know, there's different issues with that, but we don't really want to have buys, and we don't want players to profit from buys. So you know that's something we're conscious of.
Euro Tour as well. Gibraltar gone. 8 out of 13 in Germany. Was there no new territories you looked at going into?
Maybe.
This year?
Yeah, maybe, but not for next year. I mean, again, you know, this year was the first year of the Euro Tour after COVID. Yep. In people's everyday lives, COVID may seem a long way in the past, but in the world of event organisation, it's still been an issue for us to deal with because everything's planned 1 or 2 years in advance. So the events that are being staged next year, a lot of them were planned last year.
Yeah, of course.
You know, so to book venues and to know where you can go and things like that. Germany's a massive market. It's a massive country. It's a massive darts country. You know, it's the centre of continental Europe. You know, geographically, it's the right place for the majority of the events to be staged in. You know, by doing one event in Hungary, one event in the Czech Republic, one event in Belgium, one event in the Netherlands, smaller countries, smaller population, smaller demand for darts. By doing one event, we're going to do one event in those countries and do it really well. Now, do we want to do other countries? Poland, Spain, Switzerland, wherever. I've just made those countries up. You know, but do we want to do those countries? Yeah, we do. Yeah, but it has to be the right time with the right partners in the right venues. You know, I don't know why people get so precious about stuff like that. I really don't. You know, just watch it as an event. Yeah. You know, I guarantee when Michael van Gerwen or Gerwyn Price or Peter Wright or whoever are up there on stage, they're not thinking, "Oh, I'm in Germany again." Thinking I want to play my best here and win in front of this crowd and win the trophy and win the money. You know, people can get very preoccupied with essentially irrelevant details.
The World Series for 2023, first of all, we'll do the new one in Bahrain and 2 events in January.
Yeah.
How did that come about, staging 2 early in the year?
Yeah, so essentially with the World Series, we often work with local promoters, so people who control the rights to those events in their local territories. So they contract with us and we deliver the show, but they look after everything on the venue side, on the ticketing side and things like that. So ultimately they can choose when to schedule the event. Now the promoter in Copenhagen wanted to have the event in January. They've said that to us for 2 years now. That's their prerogative. And in Bahrain, but the Bahrain event we've been talking to them for a long time, but took a long time to resolve or to move forward. And there's not that many spaces in our calendar. You know, most people actually want to do events between February and May. Well, because of the Premier League, you can't do it. You know, we can just about say to players, can you play a Premier League on Thursday and European Tour at the weekend? You know, but you can't say, can you play a Premier League on Thursday and then a World Series on Friday, which happens to be a 6-hour flight away? It's just not going to work. Yeah. You know, so that immediately knocks out 4 months of the year.
Yeah.
Then when you look at what's happening in the back end of the year with the week-long and the weekend TV events across September, October, November, that knocks out that 3 months. We're obviously not going to do December because it's leading up to Ali Pa. Before you know it, you've got no slots left in the calendar. Yeah. You know, so the Bahrain one is early. Yeah, but it was a slot that was available that worked for the venue, worked for the promoter out there, worked for us in terms of, you know, we knew we had space in the calendar. So it's just the way that it's gone.
People will say that eliminates pretty much the holiday time for the players, and then
it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because they can choose to go on holiday. No one's got a gun to their head being forced to go to these events. No one's got a gun to their head being forced to play in any event. If a player wants to go on holiday, as I've said before on plenty of occasions, they're perfectly within their rights, and I would encourage them to go on holiday because you can't play in everything or you'll be knackered. You know, so manage your calendar, manage your schedule. If you need to miss something, then choose what you want to miss. You know, but I do think that players should be encouraged, and some of the well-managed players will miss events because it's the right thing for them to do, to take a break, to have some family time, some time away from the pressures, from the media, from the fans, just unwind, chill out and come back fresher. You can't have a player get into September, October exhausted because they've played every week. You know, so look, some guys can do it. Some guys don't care, they just want to play. That's great, that's entirely their prerogative. But if you want to have a break, have a break.
On that, and I'm reading between the lines here, the press release that came out about Bahrain, Michael van Gerwen's name was missing from it. Only mentioned Gezi and Peter. So does that suggest that Michael is going to miss Bahrain?
I didn't see that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who wrote that. So maybe that was written locally. Maybe it just mentioned certain players for certain reasons.
Because normally that Michael's one of the first names on a press release in terms of an event.
Maybe they don't like him in Bahrain. I don't
know. And also only one event in Australia.
Yeah, only one at the moment. Yeah, maybe only one. Yeah.
They're still looking potentially.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it this year. You know, Wollongong was fantastic. Townsville was pretty average, if I'm honest. You know, didn't sell great. Crowds were smallish. Wollongong was fantastic. Australian record crowd, 4,000 on the Saturday night, 3,000 on the Friday night. You know, so are we overkilling it by doing 2? Is the market there big enough for 2? We'll see. At the moment, what we've announced at the moment is what's confirmed, because the earlier we get the dates out there, the earlier people can plan. So it may be that there'll be more. It may be that there'll be something else. It may be there won't be anything else.
Away from the PDC, the amateur game is in a bit of a mess right now. It seems, lack of dates and everything like that. There's rumours that the WDF World Championship is going to get put back to after Q School. If that happens, would there be an exemption again, or was it a one-off last year for players that have qualified for it and then go on to get a card? Would there be another exemption if it was past it again, or was it?
No, it was a one-off because of COVID rescheduling.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. Again, that was one of the ones we were asked to ask you, because it looks as if it's rumoured to be early February now. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's going to be potentially afterwards. And on that, obviously, there's I've got no idea, but that's just the very strongly rumoured date. Okay. It's going to be early February.
Right.
Also, the Grand Slam has always had that element. Are you looking for partnerships with the amateur game still, or is it still miles off?
Not really at the moment. No, I mean, we've got enough players coming from different aspects of our own system. You know, I've been quite consistent on this for the last couple of years. We want to reward players who play within our system. You know, I don't see enough compelling evidence at the moment to say that we should take players from outside our system. In the past, when the Grand Slam first started, there was a real strength in depth in the BDO system at the time. We had some good players come through, many of them came over, some of them didn't. You know, now we've got our own system that's got a strength in depth. I don't see you know, and say if you're playing on one of these other circuits, you're probably playing on the Challenge Tour as well.
Yeah.
You know, you may be playing on the Development Tour as well if your age is right, or the Women's Series. You know, so the whole reason for us to develop a structure was to give players at all levels the opportunity to integrate with us. You know, so from Development Tour, Challenge Tour, Pro Tour, the overseas tours. You know, so we've got our own system now.
Yeah, that's fair. With the associated tours and everything like that, the CDC doing great things and made a bold decision that tour card holders from next year won't be able to go back and play and qualify for PDC events through that. Is that something that you're looking to do in other tours to stop the loopholes?
It's difficult, isn't it? There's definitely two sides to that argument, and I can sympathise with people on both sides of the argument there. It is difficult. You want to keep the conveyor belt going, you want to keep the production line going. If you allow tour card holders to come back and play, do they just hoover up all the spots forever? If you don't, do you stifle their development? It's really difficult to get that right, you know. So we look at, first of all, it's not our decision, it's the local association's decision, but they generally would make it in conjunction with us, and we would talk beforehand. But we would, you know, look at the unique circumstances of each territory, and kind of. And also, to be honest, if we make a decision like that between us and we feel it's wrong, we'll change it. You know, we've always been flexible. We've always been happy to say, no, we did A, now we're going to do B. So, you know, let's see how that goes. But I definitely understand both sides of the argument there.
Same argument with the Development Tour and tour card holders. Will that stay next year, that tour card holders can drop back into the Development Tour fine?
Yeah. Yeah, at that age and that stage of your career, the more competitive opportunities you've got, the better for your development.
Yeah, no. Prize money as well. Obviously, we had an announcement pre-match play that it was going up. Will it go up again for other tournaments in
definitely,
2023?
Yeah, we've got some more prize money raises coming up soon. So, yeah, we're finalising all of that now, and it'll be announced in due course. But, yeah, some tournaments are going up, sure.
Will the Worlds go up? Well, not figures, but will it go up, or will it be the others around the Worlds to bring them in line?
Yeah,
with
I mean, obviously
Worlds?
Nothing will ever really be in line with the Worlds because it's so much bigger than everything else. Yeah. But it does distort things a little bit at the moment. So we'll be looking to raise other tournaments. But ultimately, the prize money has to kind of reflect the overall level and status of the event. So you're not going to see an event go from 500,000 to 1.8 million.
No.
But we will try to move that next level of event up. Yeah.
On the Worlds as well, are we at a point now where it's potentially being looked at to move it from where it is in Ali Pal into the bigger hall the way it's selling out, or is that not at that stage yet?
No, we're not at that stage. I don't think we'll ever be at that stage because the West Hall isn't big enough. If we move into the Great Hall to accommodate a bigger capacity of fans, those fans need somewhere to go, to bars, toilets, food outlets, everything like that. It will be, to our understanding, it won't be possible to accommodate that number of people in the way that we would want them to be accommodated within the West Hall.
With the fans village and everything like that.
The fans village is actually bigger than the West Hall.
Yeah.
So if you put that into context, most people perhaps wouldn't think that, but it is. So if you put that into context, if you flip everything round, it becomes logistically very difficult. And to be honest, away from all of that, I think the West Hall is really special.
Yeah.
I think the atmosphere in there is just electric, absolutely phenomenal. That low ceiling, the way it's lit, it's just a unique, magical sporting atmosphere. And I wouldn't want to lose that by going into the Great Hall, which is cavernous and may not generate such an intensity. So we maybe have to look at other ways in which we can, give people the opportunity to come to the event.
Broadcasting this year, a lot of, not for you guys, it wasn't for a change, but ITV got a lot of criticism for not showing the World Series events live, and for the first time you guys put it on PDC TV so people could watch it live. Were you disappointed that it wasn't on free to air live?
Yeah, we wanted them to show it, but they chose not to. So we work with them and keep talking about it. They've got their own reasons; it's their prerogative. They own the rights, but we would prefer it to be live on ITV. Yeah,
mind you. Plus point, obviously, I'm guessing PDC TV did.
Yeah, but that's just a service to provide to fans. So it's not really like a great commercial thing or anything like that. We would just want to see as much darts live on TV as possible.
Matt, it's always a pleasure picking your brain, mate, as always.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.